Hi everyone, how are you doing? This is normally my best time of the day. It's just before dusk. The birds normally come in to roost around this time. When I say normally, they probably still will be. I don't think they're under lockdown. But normally there's a hive of activity around this period. People walking their dogs, jogging, returning home. There's normally a steady stream of traffic behind me, and none of that is there this time. How are you doing? How are you managing? Things are definitely different, and perhaps you're getting a bit used to this new difference, and perhaps this has become your new normal. But are you coping? Are you managing in the Lord? Perhaps you're feeling down in the dumps, and perhaps you're a bit anxious, and that's what I want to address just in the short time with you now. I don't know where you're at, but if it feels like life is fighting you, if it feels like even God is fighting you, I want to show you from His Word that He really is not. Over the next few days, we're going to be going through Psalm 46 together. And we're going to learn that in the midst of all of this craziness, that God is in control. I'm going to be sharing with you just some thoughts that I'm going to be getting out of my quiet times. And I've been getting a lot of encouragement from Psalm 46. And that's what, over the next few days, just in between when Wayne's going to be sharing from the minor prophets, I'm going to be speaking to you just informally what I'm getting out of my quiet times and my devotions with the Lord. And as I said, I've been in Psalm 46, and we're going to be looking at that together over the next few days. Today, Tuesday, and then next week on Thursdays. And we're going to be spending this time together. And what we're going to learn is that if we are part of His family, God certainly is not fighting us. In fact, He's fighting for us. And tonight we're going to look at God's protection. And then on Thursday, we're going to look at God's power. And then next Tuesday, we'll be looking at God's peace. Psalm 46 was a psalm that was written by the sons of Korah, and it was written as a song for God's people. And the context that it was written in is during the reign of King Hezekiah. He was the king of Judah at the time, and what was happening during this period is that there were these terrible people, the Assyrians, and they were led by this guy called Sennacherib. And during this period when this psalm is written, and it's what they're speaking about is the Assyrians are besieging Judah, literally camped outside the walls of Jerusalem. The Assyrians are a cruel nation. They literally skinned their enemies. When you think of the Assyrian army and you think of Sennacherib, think ISIS. Think about all the atrocities that we heard of them committing in the Middle East, or think about Nazi Germany under Hitler. That is who is on the other side of the wall. Those are the guys who are encamped on the other side of the wall. And I know that is how so many people are feeling at this time, the stress and anxiety of what is on the other side of that lockdown wall. You might feel like Hezekiah with enemies on the other side. Hey, we're coming for you, man. Perhaps the enemy is your house bond. Perhaps it's your business. It's work. It's not knowing whether you're going to be getting a salary at the end of the month. Perhaps it's wondering how you're going to carry on affording the school fees. It's your finances. It's the economy. Whatever that stress is, you're hearing those voices taunting you. We're going to conquer you. We're going to skin you. And just like Hezekiah, inside you're thinking, oh man, what do we do? What do we do? And this song or this psalm was most likely written as a battle cry, a cry of victory for that situation right there. Let's read Psalm 46, and we're just going to be in the first 3 verses. And we read there, verse 1. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake with their surging. From these verses, we see that the protection of God is ever present. He is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. Verse 1 says, the protection of God is ever present. Let me ask you something. What do you turn to in times of trouble? Who or what are you relying on right now? Are you looking at your bank balance? Is that the thing that you're going to? Man, you might be thinking, my bank balance, that is the thing that is giving me trouble right now. That's the thing that I don't want to look at. Or perhaps you look at your bank balance and think, man, as long as I've got this amount in, I'm still safe. I'm still okay. What is it that you're turning to? Maybe it's the thought that you've still got a job. But what is it that you turn to, even outside of our scenario that we find ourselves in right now? What is it that you turn to as your constant in your life, the one thing that feels like a sure footing for you? When all of this started, was your first reaction to stop and say, okay, God, I know you're in control of everything. I know you're protecting me right now. You're with me, God. You're who I want to turn to first. Everything around you is falling apart. It seems that life is fighting you. What are you grasping at? It is during those times that our faith is really defined. Are we trusting in God, like we learned from Wayne's lessons on Abraham and Joshua? Or are we trusting in ourselves? What are you grasping for? What is the constants? What are the things that will hold you up? Psalm 46 tells us that God is our refuge. That word for refuge literally means a place of trust. So we can read that as God is our place of trust. But notice what it says there. It says, God is our refuge. He himself is our place of trust. He doesn't provide us with a shelter to cover us from the elements. He doesn't usher us into a building while the mountains are falling all around us. He doesn't throw us a life jacket while we're drowning in the roaring, foaming sea. He is our shelter, covering us and protecting us. Psalm 18 verse 2 says this, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold." Just as God himself is our refuge, he himself is also our strength when we are weak. When we are bashed from all sides and it feels like we are drowning, it's difficult to trust. I know during those times it's difficult to trust. It is difficult to trust in God that he has our backs, that he's hearing our prayers. During those times, let me tell you something, he doesn't just give us strength, he is our strength. Let me tell you a story of what happened to me a number of years ago. I was at the beach at a work conference, a ministry conference, and a good friend of mine, Ed Reed, and I decided that we were going to go and swim in the sea. And we particularly wanted to swim with some dolphins that we had seen swimming just off the shore. And so we waded in, and it seemed like the deeper we got in, the further those dolphins seemed to go. And then we just found ourselves in trouble. Now, just to put things into perspective, I'm not a strong swimmer. In fact, when I was in high school, my phys ed coach used to make me swim just to have a good laugh. I'm a terrible swimmer. Ed Reed, I don't know how strong a swimmer he is, but on that day, man, his strength failed him. And we did what only we could do, and that was to start calling for help. And I remember as I was there in the sea and I looked out on the beach, there was Ed's wife, Jen, and you could see she just stood there helpless. And I just started feeling myself sinking. And Ed, by that stage, already started sinking. But I realized that at that point, we only had one hope, and that was to try and catch the waves in. And so that's what we started doing. And with each wave, we would try and kind of move with it as it moved along towards the shore. And thankfully, exhausted with absolutely no energy, the final wave washed us out onto the beach, onto the sand. And we both lay there exhausted. You see, the waves carried us safely to shore. In the same way, it is God who will bring you safely to shore as you put your faith in Him. Now you see, I could have fought the waves. I could have carried on with all my strength. I would have just tired myself out, and I probably would have drowned. In allowing those waves to carry me, it saved my life. God is our protection. And His protection and strength is ever present. It is always available. God is an ever-present help in times of trouble. This means all the time, continually. Claim these promises today. As you experience pressure during this time, and those voices on the other side of the wall begin to taunt you, just ask the Lord to help you. Tell Him, God, you said you'd be my refuge, and I need you to shelter me right now, Lord. If you've run out of strength and it feels like the enemy on that other side of the wall is going to overpower you, remember that God Himself is your strength. Thank you, Lord, that you are greater than every problem and bigger than any mountain. Thank you for who you are. Today we choose to trust you to be our refuge and our strength. Though the earth gives way, we will not fear. Though the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, and though its waters roar and foam around, we will cling to you, our refuge and strength. Amen.